In the Parsha, the spies go into the land. They see what is there. You know it already, right? It's great. See what's happened since your bar mitzvah? It's a great story. And Micah and Maya shared their interpretation with us. Like it says, and they brought back an evil report, a debat, of the land which they had spied out to the children of Israel. The spies came back with different opinions, 10 saying, this is impossible to conquer, and of course 2 giving a positive response. At first, the spies reported that the land flowed with milk and honey, and according to Nachmanides, that they said then that there were people there that were fierce. It's at that point that Caleb and Joshua piped in and said, we can do it. Nachmanides says that at that point the people were hesitant, but the 10 spies spread murmurs. They spread rumors amongst the people saying that we can't do it. It wasn't an explicit process of 10 saying no way and 2 saying yes, like we generally interpret it. Nachmanides says that it was actually kind of a soft campaign to undermine the confidence of the people and to put pressure on Aaron and Moses. When the spies saw that Joshua and Caleb were still encouraging Moses and Aaron to move forward, they created false reports, Nachmanides said, taking it one step further in order to frustrate the plans for the good of the people. It's an interesting idea. What's the good of the people? It seems right now we're in the midst of an ideological reset of what is for the good of the people. This week alone, more guns are clearly necessary by reading the headlines. Church-state separation is crumbling. Reproductive freedom is revoked in parts of America. And upcoming challenges to other rights are surely on their way. So I want us to absorb this moment. We woke up today in a country where reproductive choice is not the standard in America. It is not guaranteed. We woke up in a country that in many places it is denied. So let me be clear, Rabbi Megdal and I have been very clear over these months that within Judaism, life does not begin at conception. Life beginning at conception is a singular, specific religious faith that is outside of Judaism. That is Christian practice. But within Judaism, it begins at birth, and there's discussion around that point, but it is certainly not at conception. When legislation effectively lifts up one religious view over others, it clearly is denying us our religious practice. This was part of the questioning that Justice Sotomayor brought to the oral arguments. Made it a very clear practice of freedom of religion. And as a Jew, our freedoms have been constrained. As a father, reflecting on this moment, the father of 2 people able to be pregnant, I fear for my kids. It is different. It has taken away liberties. That is the wrong direction. To think about it, if you have kids or friends that go to Tulane or Ohio State or Emory or Clemson, a host of other schools, the ability to access reproductive and health care has been banned or is about to be banned because of these laws. And there are many states that are not sure which way they're going to go on it. So if you have friends that go to Duke or Elon or Madison or Michigan or Penn or Drexel, University of Miami, UVA, if you're an alum of those schools, those states are not sure which way they're going on this. And I do know for sure that the agenda of the right is not stopping here. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional expert. But this conversation around the 14th Amendment of enumerated rights and unenumerated rights puts into challenge gay rights and gay marriage and contraception. According to one report that I just read yesterday, an article I just read yesterday, Clarence Thomas has already written in a concurrence to Dobbs that he wants these things to be challenged even further. And in the joint dissent by Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, they said, quote, "No one should be confident that this majority is done with its work. The rights of Roe and Casey recognized does not stand alone. To the contrary, this court has for decades tied this to other settled freedoms: bodily integrity, familial relationships, and procreation are all tied to this 14th Amendment, all of which have been challenged now. There is a role of religion in the marketplace. Right? I stand here week after week and I talk about morality. I talk about how we have to take our lessons and ethics and apply them in our life. But there is a difference between legislating a singular moral outlook for all of America. The beauty of America once was that you can believe what you want, whether it's in a church or a mosque or a synagogue or a temple or of no house of worship at all. That's the beauty that we have. And if you want something, then you can do it. And if you don't want something because it's against your outlook of the world, then don't do it. So if you're against gay marriage, marry someone else. And if you're against abortion, then don't have one. But what I know is that in the political theater of America, when we are talking in the extremes, that Judaism has to be on the permissive side because there are circumstances where abortion is permitted and required. And so whereas it may be a slightly different point than others on the progressive left, in the extremes of American politics, we are clearly on the side that abortion must be accessible and available. We should live by our ethics, but also we should not use our ethics to restrict others. So what do? Well, this is very clear because elections matter. Elections are how we got to this point. Many people are talking about who is on the court and the presidents that put them forward and the parties that put them forward. But right now, we're in an election right now. Right? July 19th is the primaries. And you know what? This doesn't just happen at the top of the tickets. So the House of Delegates matter. You may not pay attention to those races, especially living here in Montgomery County. You're like, we're all liberal. We're all Democrats. We're all like variations of the same type of Democrats. That's probably true. But we have a Republican governor, so it means that our state as a whole, and I will tell you that the candidates for governor, very different. I invite you to look at them, just on the Republican side. Very different. And they have very clear history and stances on this issue. But so the House of Delegates and the Board of Education and the governor's race, these things matter for issues that are important to us. And so whatever your opinion is, I really am less concerned about what your opinion is and more concerned about you sitting out, not paying attention, just assuming that others are going to vote the way you want to vote. And we can't take it for granted. We need to get involved. We need to make sure that you get involved. Right? Put a lawn sign out and go volunteer for someone and just go onto a website, find out what they think about. And if it resonates with you, if you find a candidate that is speaking to your issues, get involved with them. Right? It seems silly to have to say this literally in a synagogue in the Beltway of Washington, D.C., and we still do because we still don't. Right? So a lawn sign is not enough. Get involved. Stroking a small check to this person or that person, that's fine. But roll up your sleeves and get involved. Right? That's what we're going to need to do moving forward. But on whatever your issues are, that's what we need to do. I am proud of the work of the National Council of Jewish Women. I'm proud of the work of our local JCRC as well. So get involved with those groups or others. Judaism allows abortions in certain circumstances, and that has been revoked in big portions of America, which means that Jews cannot practice their Judaism except through the lens of the Christian rules. That's not American. It's not Jewish. We as Bethel need to decide how we are going to engage in this. I don't have the answer, but I invite this conversation amongst our congregation that it is time for us to make decisions and for us to step forward, maybe in ways that we haven't before. But this is unprecedented times, at least in the last 50 years. And so I invite this conversation amongst leadership, amongst our Tikkun Alum committee, amongst the congregation. Yesterday afternoon, all of this is yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, NCJW, the National Council of Jewish Women, sent out a piece about how to use Havdalah this evening as a way of course, Havdalah separates the idea of the holiness of Shabbat into the rest of the week. They wrote, the world, they suggest this language for when we're at the holding the candle and we're at the end of the ceremony before we extinguish the candle tonight, that the world we are entering is different from the world that we left behind. The world that we woke up in today is different than the world we woke up in yesterday. Before we recite the last blessing, the text says, from realm to realm, from time to time, Kodesh L'chol. Let's pause to take a moment to feel our feelings, whatever they are, wherever we are, is valid. And let's never forget that we're together. Rabbi Stephanie Crawley, who is the associate rabbi at Temple Micah in D.C., she wrote this prayer. God of mercy, God of plague, God of compassion, God of righteous anger, teach us how to choose between the thunder and the dew, between the match and the tear. Tell us when to pray and when to yell, Shout for the welfare of the government. Fight for the welfare of the government, not for its own sake, but for ours. Not for the body politic, but the body that has been politicized. We pray for the government because we fear it, but maybe it should fear us. Let today be the day we learn our power. May the nation merit our protection as we assert the ability to choose how to breathe, how to birth, how to be in body, and how to be. I am confident. I am as confident as Joshua and Caleb that the good of the people will prevail. The Israelites had to wander for 40 years from the spies, and while we may have moved back 50 years, we will fight for reproductive rights and abortion access. Shabbat Shalom.